إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أحسن الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. So in the previous lessons we discussed our position towards the scholars from the righteous Salaf, from the Tabi'een and those after them, the four Imams, and what's our general position towards them. And that discussion followed the previous discussion, which is what is our position towards the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. And so in the next sentences that we're going to discuss, we see that we now move from ilm, the people of knowledge, to the issue of the awliya, the pious, righteous, the allies and the friends of Allah Azza wa Jal. And At-Tahaawiyyah in the next couple of sentences lays down important principles as to how we view the awliya. So he says, وَلَا نُفَضِّلُ أحدا من الأولياء على أحد من الأنبياء عليهم السلام ونقول نبي واحد أفضل من جميع الأولياء. So he says, we do not give preference to anyone from the awliya over a single one of the anbiya. So we do not give preference to the awliya, the pious, righteous friends of Allah, over a single one amongst the prophets, alayhim salam. And we say, وَنَقُولُ نَبِيٌّ وَاحِدٌ, a single prophet, أَفْضَلُ, is more superior than all of the awliya. وَنُؤْمِنُ بِمَا جَاءَ مِنْ كَرَامَاتِهِمْ وَصَحَّ عَنِ الثِّقَاتِ مِنْ رِوَايَاتِهِمْ. And we believe in whatever has come in relation to the karamat, which are like a lesser type of miracle compared to that which the prophets have, and that which is authentic, that has come through the reliable, trustworthy narrators with respect to the reports about such people. Right, so these are the two sentences that we're going to look at over the next few lessons, because there's quite a lengthy discussion. There are many important issues that are found within these two sentences, and some very interesting issues. So we'll start by some speech from Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullahu ta'ala. And Shaykh Al-Albani says that in these sentences, what At-Tahaawiyyah is alluding to is a refutation of a specific group of people. And that group of people are known as the Sufi Ittihadiyya. Sufiya Ittihadiyya. And the Ittihadiyya, they are those who believe in the divine union, meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal is united with His creation or with specific beings from within His creation. And likewise the Sufis, the ignorant Sufis in general. And so these sentences are directed towards those types of people. And that's because they exaggerate in the awliya. They have an exaggeration in the awliya. So what we are aiming to do in these sentences is to provide the moderate, the balanced, the sound, the authentic position with respect to the awliya, and likewise address those factions and those groups and those parties who deviated in this particular field. So some of them basically they exaggerated, and others they basically, they denied their miracles and things of that nature, right? So we want to provide the balance. So basically, Shaykh al-Albani, he begins by saying here then that the author, rahimahullah, Tahaawiyyah, is indicating a refutation of the Ittihadiyyah and the ignorant amongst the Sufis. The people of istiqamah, the people of uprightness, they basically enjoin upon the people to follow knowledge and to follow the Sharia. Right, so knowledge meaning the knowledge, the aqaid, the knowledge-based aspects, and to follow the Sharia, meaning to abide by the legislations of the Sharia, which are the acts of worship, the ibadat, the ahkam, and so on and so forth. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, He has obligated upon the whole of creation to follow the messengers. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا لِيُطَاعَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. We sent no messenger except that he may be obeyed by the permission of Allah. Surah An-Nisa, Surah 4, verse 64. 4, verse 64. Now, why is this important? It's because many of these people that we are speaking of, from the Ittihadiyyah, from the extremist Sufis, they believe that this person, they believe that they've striven so hard in worship and they've attained a certain leadership and they've become so pure that they have reached a level and a status which the prophets have reached. And therefore they are no longer obligated to follow the prophets. And some of them actually believe that they've reached a level even more superior than the prophets themselves, that they are superior than the prophets themselves. And some of them, so once they reach this level, then they basically start saying other things. They say that even the prophets and the messengers, when they take their knowledge, they take their knowledge from the most superior of the awliya. Right? So in other words, the general idea that is being said here, that Shaykh al-Albani is indicating, is that these people are exaggerating in the status of the awliya, to a degree whereby they claim they are no longer obligated to follow the prophets and messengers, and that they've reached a level superior to the prophets and messengers, and even to the extremism that the prophets and messengers themselves, that when they take their knowledge, they take knowledge from Allah through the root of the awliya. And then such people, they claim for themselves certain titles, like for example, Khatamul Awliya. Khatam al-Awliya. So for example, we have Khatam al-Anbiya, which is the messenger of Allah, the last and the final messenger, which is sealed and finished. So amongst these Sufis were those who believe that there are awliya, and that this continues after the Prophet ﷺ. And then some of them claimed that he is the Khatam of the awliya, just like the messenger is the Khatam, is the seal of the prophets. So some of them believe that they were the seal of the awliya and everything returns back to them. And so these people, will be looking at them in a bit more detail in later lessons, inshallah ta'ala. So basically the point being then is that they claim, as Shaykh al-Albani continues to explain, that they believe that the nubuwwah, prophethood, has been sealed. And the seal of that is obviously Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But they believe that the walaya meaning this allegiance and friendship that Allah has with those from His creation, that this has not been sealed. Some of them believe that it hasn't been sealed. So it's basically continuing. And then amongst them are those who say, well, actually, yes, it was sealed. Because, for example, they might say, so-and-so was the seal, Ibn Arabi was the seal, or so-and-so was the seal, right? They make a claim that such and such was the seal of the awliya. But in general, they believe that it hasn't been sealed. So therefore, a person can come along amongst them, amongst the Sufis, and he will say, well, yes, I am the Khatam al-Awliya. I am now the seal of the awliya. So this is something that continues amongst them, and obviously we know this is a contradiction. So some of them even went to the level whereby they had this sentence that they said that the station of prophethood, being a prophet, is in a barzakh that is above messengership but less than a wali. Right? So in other words, you have a wali at the top, then you have prophethood, then you have messengership. And so what they've done is they basically changed the Sharia the other way around. They change it the other way around. Whether a Rasul, you have the Rasul, you have a Nabi, and then you have the awliya beneath him. So they've turned it the other way around and exaggerated in the position of the awliya. Now, this is because the awliya, if you think about the awliya, what are the awliya doing? The awliya, how have they become awliya? It is because they have iman, they are mu'minun, and they have taqwa, they are muttaqun. Iman and taqwa, in accordance with the verse in the Quran. Ala inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun alladhina amanu wa kanu yattaqun. This is the ayah. Indeed, the pious friends of Allah, there will be no fear upon them, nor shall they grieve. Those who believe, iman, and have taqwa. Right? Where did they get this from? Where does iman and taqwa come from? It comes from the prophets and messengers. So walaya, being a wali, can in no way ever be superior to the rank of a prophet or messenger, because their friendship and allegiance to Allah Azza wa Jal itself has come through the medium of the prophets and messengers. So that ayah, by the way, is Surah Yunus, Surah 10, verses 62 to 63. So prophethood is more specific than allegiance, than walaya. Walaya is the allegiance that people have to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is more general. Then within them, more specific, are the prophets. And then amongst the prophets, more specific, are the messengers. Right? So if you imagine three circles, the largest circle represents walaya to Allah, meaning just allegiance, loyalty, friendship with Allah Azza wa Jal, iman, taqwa. And then amongst this within this is a smaller circle, and that is nubuwwah, and this is prophethood. And then something more specific, a smaller circle, is ar-risala, where a messenger is now ordered to convey what has been revealed to him to a people who are in opposition to the message. Right? So this is how it is. This is the end of what Shaykh Al-Bani rahimahullah ta'ala, the points basically that he made. And then we move on to Shaykh Salih Al-Fawzan hafidhahullah ta'ala, and he says that the author here now has moved on to the awliya. So from the ulama to the awliya. And you can see that this is the same thing that Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala, he did in his Al-Usul al-Sitta, the 6 principles, where he speaks about the position towards the scholars, the genuine scholars, and those who are truly genuine scholars and those who are not from them. So he mentioned the issues pertaining to what is an alim. And then after that, he then moved on to the awliya. Who are the true awliya and who are not from amongst them? Because this is a very, very important issue. We see that the same thing here, that At-Tahaawiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, is indicating the same thing so that we are clear about our position to the Sahaba, first of all, that the Salaf in general, that amongst them were those who are Ahlul Hadith, and amongst them were those who are people of fiqh, and the issues pertaining to that. And then after that, the awliya, how we deal with them. So he moved from the ulama to the awliya. And the awliya is the plural of wali. Wali represents walaya. And walaya means, again, like friendship and loyalty. This word has two concepts behind it. The first is al-qurb, which is nearness, and al-mahabba, which is love. So this is the meaning of loyalty. When you have loyalty towards someone, basically that means that you love that person and you are close to that person. Right? This is al-walaya. And so therefore, the awliya are those who are close to Allah and love Allah. They have mahabba and they have al-qurb. And they are named awliya because of their nearness to Allah, and also because Allah Azza wa Jal also loves them as well. So there is nearness and love between them and Allah Azza wa Jal. In the Quran we see, Inna Allah yuhibbu at-tawwabin wa yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin. Indeed, Allah loves those who frequently repent, and He loves those who keep themselves pure. Baqarah 2 verse 222. 2 verse 222. And likewise he said, Inna Allah yuhibbul muhsinin. Indeed, Allah loves those who do good. So we see that in the Quran there's a love between Allah Azza wa Jal and those who are righteous people. And likewise in the ayah, the famous ayah that establishes the principles of al-walaya, the one that we mentioned earlier, Ala inna awliya Allah لا خوف عليهم وهم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون. So it describes those people as those who believe and had taqwa. So a wali then is one who combines two affairs. The first is al-iman, and the second is at-taqwa. Now, with respect to this, when we look at people from this point of view, from the point of view of walaya to Allah Azza wa Jal, then there are three categories amongst mankind. Mankind. And the first of them are those who are the pure awliya of Allah, awliya Allah al-khullas min al-malaikati wal-nabiyyin wal-siddiqeen wal-shuhada wal-salihil mu'mineen. So they are those who are the pure friends, pious friends of Allah, and they are from the angels, the prophets, the truthful, the siddiqeen, and the martyrs, the shuhada, and the salih al-mu'mineen, meaning the righteous from amongst the believers. So all of these, they basically have nothing but walaya, muhabba, qurb, nearness, closeness, loyalty. They have this with Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal, He loves them, He protects them. This is the first category. Second category are the a'da'ullah, the enemies of Allah, for whom there is nothing but enmity. And this is the mushrik, the kafir, and the munafiq, the hypocrite with an-nifaqul akbar, the one who is a hypocrite with the major hypocrisy. So these are the a'da'ullah, the enemies of Allah and His Messenger. And then the Shaykh brings a number of ayat in the Quran in relation to the issue of al-walaya wal-adawa. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا عدوي وعدوكم أولياء تلقون إليهم بالمودة وقد كفروا بما جاءكم من الحق. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء بعضهم أولياء بعض لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباءهم أو أبناءهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم. So these ayat in the Quran, they all refer to the issue of loyalty and disloyalty. Al-wala wal-bara, walaya wal-adawa. Right? So the references here, they are Al-Mumtahina, Surah 60 verse 1, Al-Mujadila, Surah 58 verse 22, Al-Ma'idah 5 verse 21. So here meaning that these are those to whom there is nothing but, the adawa. And then you have a third category, and they are those who have walaya from an angle and adawa from an angle. So they have something of loyalty and love and allegiance from Allah Azza wa Jal, and something of this, of adawa. And this is the sinful Muslim, the sinful believer. So to the degree that he has obedience and obedience, then to the degree that he has disobedience, then he will have walaya and adawa to that same extent. Now this means that every single Muslim, every single believer is actually a wali of Allah. Why? Because every Muslim, a Muslim meaning here that a believer who obviously is not a munafiq with a nifaq al-akbar, because they all have something of iman and they have something of even the slightest amount of righteous deeds, then they have the walaya with Allah Azza wa Jal to that same extent. Now if someone comes along and he is a hypocrite and he claims to be from the awliya of Allah, he claims walaya, and he doesn't really have any iman, nor any taqwa, this one then is a dajjal kadhab. This one is clearly a liar, a great liar in what he is claiming. And some of these people could be like, you have magicians. There are magicians, right, who appear like Muslims. They have the beard, the long white beard. They have the thobe. They have everything, right? These people are they are disbelievers, right? Because they know that what sihr, what it entails, and what it demands from them to win the assistance of the jinn, of the shayateen, and so they know that they are upon this, and they claim to be from the awliya of Allah. And they are swindlers, they are cheaters, they are nothing but, so these people are dajjaloon kadhabun. And likewise, similar to them, those who are the diviners, the fortune tellers, and things of that nature, who deal in the occult, in the hidden, the secret. And all of this is really dealing and interacting with the jinn. So these people, we see that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote a book called Al-Furqan. Al-Furqan بين أولياء الرحمن وأولياء الشيطان, distinguishing between the true wali and the fake, false wali, from the magicians, the fortune tellers. And then how do you know, what's the criterion for knowing which one is genuine? Right? Because these people apparently they bring miracles, and those people likewise we see miracles occurring at their hands as well. So then he goes on, so after explaining this, Shaykh al-Fawzan, he then says that basically, after distinguishing between these three, and noting the fact that there are those who claim to be awliya but they are not, he says that it is obligatory therefore, in light of this, to show love for the awliya of Allah. Right, so this is our position towards the awliya of Allah, meaning the genuine awliya of Allah. And this would also mean obviously that we guide ourselves by them, have loyalty towards them, be near to them. And obviously we know that the awliya of Allah, they are of ranks and degrees, and so there are those to whom we show a greater amount of walaya, and those whom we show a lesser amount of walaya, and that's because of the amount and degree and extent of the loyalty that they have, the walaya that they have, their iman and their taqwa. So after this, At-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, وَلَا نُفَضِّلُ أَحَدًا مِنَ الْأَوْلِيَاءِ عَلَى أَحَدٍ مِنَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّلَامِ, that we do not show preference to any one of the awliya over a single one of the Anbiya. This is a refutation of the Sufiya. At-Tahawi specifically mentioned this, that this is actually a refutation of the Sufiya, because they have ghulu, they have exaggeration and extremism with respect to the awliya. They claim that they are more superior than the Anbiya, than the prophets. Whereas Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they do not exaggerate in the awliya. They treat them and put them in their actual position. As for the misguided Sufis, they give them preference over the Anbiya. In fact, one of them, and he mentions, the Shaykh Fawzan mentions the same statement that Shaykh Albani quoted, that the station of prophethood is above that of a messenger, but less than that of a wali. In other words, at the top is the wali, then the prophet, then the messenger. And so we've seen that they reversed it. And this claim, the Shaykh says, this is kufr. This is disbelief. Because the best are the messengers, the rusul, then the prophets, anbiya, then the pious friends of Allah, the awliya. And the reason, now what is the reason why they say this? What is the reason, what's led them to say that the awliya are more superior than the anbiya and the rusul? The reason is because they say that the wali, he takes directly from Allah Azza wa Jal. Whereas the anbiya and the rusul, prophets and messengers, they have to go through an intermediary, meaning Jibreel alayhi salam. So they are not receiving direct communication from Allah Azza wa Jal. Whereas the awliya, they are taking directly. They've reached a level whereby they no longer need to rely upon intermediaries. They are interfacing directly with Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah is revealing to them directly. So therefore they have a superior position to the prophets and the messengers. And likewise the statement of At-Tahawi, to emphasize this even further, وَنَقُولُ نَبِيٌّ وَاحِدٌ أَفْضَلُ مِنْ جَمِيعِ الْأَوْلِيَاءِ. We say that a single prophet is more superior than all of the awliya. The Shaykh says there is no doubt that this is true, because all of the awliya, from the beginning of the creation to the last of them, they do not equal a single prophet. And this is the aqeedah, this is the belief of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So then At-Tahawi said after that, وَنُؤْمِنُ بِمَا جَاءَ مِنْ كَرَامَاتِهِمْ وَصَحَّ عَنِ الثِّقَاتِ مِنْ رِوَايَاتِهِمْ. We believe in what has come regarding their karamat. Karamat are those like miracles that occur at their hands, and with respect to which the reports about them are authentic from the trustworthy reporters. So again, Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullahu ta'ala, he says that Al-Tahawi did something very well here, because he specified a condition here. Because he didn't just merely say that we believe in their miracles, he restricted it to only those which have come by way of authentic narrations. Because there are those people, and especially amongst the latecomers, who basically, when it came to this issue of the karamat, they basically opened and extended the affair to such a degree that they narrated many falsehoods. Issues whose falsehood is plain and evident, and they included these, and to any person who has even like an atom's weight of aql, as the Shaykh says, some of these are absolute falsehood. And sometimes there is even that which is ashirkul akbar in some of these claims, and in relation to the rububiyyah of Allah Azza wa Jal. And an example the Shaykh gives is, there's a well-known book amongst the extreme Sufis, and it's a book called Tabaqatul Awliya. It's by this extremist Sufi called Ash-Shi'rani. And this is from one of the greatest of the books that these Sufis rely upon, and which contains many of these falsehoods. And amongst these falsehoods is a statement in this book, is a statement of one of them, where he said, تركت قولي للشيء كن فيكون 20 سنة أدبا مع الله. He said that out of showing respect for Allah, I abandoned saying be for 20 years. Basically, he's claiming to have a share in the rububiyyah of Allah, because he's claiming that when I say be, it is. So he said, I abandoned saying that for 20 years just to show respect to Allah. And this is the greatest of kufr, of disbelief. And ta'ala Allah amma yaqulu al-zalimun uluwan kabira. Allah is exalted beyond what the oppressors say. So obviously this condition that has been put by At-Tahawi with respect to authentic narrations, of course. And so we see that no doubt there is certain books like Riyadh al-Salihin of An-Nawawi, and within these books there are reports about the karamat of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. So obviously we believe in that which is authentically narrated. Then we come to the commentary of Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan, hafidhahullah, and he says this likewise is a great and mighty study, this issue of the karamat of the awliya. And al-karama, what is a karama? A karama is something that departs from that which is habitual and ordinary in the scheme of things. That which we see to be how things run, how affairs run, meaning in day-to-day life, and how, that which we call the nature or the natural world, meaning that which Allah has created of the properties of things and the rules and laws which govern them, and the ways and means, the asbab and the causes and the effects, all of these things that we see and we experience in life. Then a karama, which we can translate loosely as miracle, is something that departs from that. It is al-khariqu lil-'ada, al-khariqu lil-'ada, meaning that which departs from that which is habitual and normative, that which is normal and habitual. Now, if this occurs at the hand of a prophet, this is then known as a mu'jiza. A mu'jiza. A mu'jiza. This is a technical term. It's not really found in the Quran. But al-mu'jiza is the word that's used to basically refer to a miracle. And like, for example, the miracle of the Quran, there is no jinn or man, or jinn and men together. They are unable to bring the likes of this Quran. And it is from the greatest of the miracles. Likewise, the miracle of the staff of Musa alayhi salam, and likewise the 9 signs which he brought to Fir'aun that are mentioned, that are related in the Quran and in the narrations. And likewise, Isa alayhi salam, how he gave life to the dead. Right? So all of these are known when they come from a prophet. They are known as a mu'jiza. But the Quranic terminology is actually ayah or burhan. Ayah or burhan or bayyinah. Right? This is the Quranic terminology. But the word mu'jiza, it's used by the scholars because the meaning of it, the mu'jiza means that which renders someone else incapable. It is something that renders someone else incapable of doing the same thing. So now, if this thing which is outside of what is ordinary occurs at the hand of a righteous man, this then now is called a karama. Right? A karama is what occurs upon the hands of a righteous man, and really the karama is so called It is so called because it is really Allah Azza wa Jal honoring the righteous person through whom he performed a miracle. Right? This is so a karama for a righteous person isn't because of some inherent, excellence or whatever. Rather, it is something that Allah sometimes bestows upon a righteous man to give him some honor, to ennoble him. And so it is not from him, it is from Allah Azza wa Jal. So for example, what happened with the Ashabul Kahf, the people of the cave, those youths who went in a cave, and likewise what happened to Maryam alayhi salam, كلما دخل عليها زكريا المحراب وجد عندها رزقا. Every time Zakaria entered into the niche, the area where Maryam was, he found that she was being provided with food. And so food, this rizq would come to her from Allah Azza wa Jal. But she was just, worshipping and would never leave the mihrab, the place where she was in worship, devoted to worship. And likewise, the karamat which happened to this ummah, in this nation, and Shaykhul Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah has mentioned many of them in his book Al-Furqan. Now, so we've spoken about that which departs from what is ordinary and normal, right? What about, so we've spoken about when it happens from a prophet and a messenger, that's a mu'jiza or an ayah or burhan. And when it happens to a righteous person, this is a karama. Then it can also happen at the hand of a kahin or sahir, meaning a soothsayer, fortune teller, a magician. Now what is this? This is really a khariq of the shaitan. A khariq of the shaitan. What's happening here? Is it something that is breaking the laws in the creation, the laws of cause and effect? What's really going on? And we find that it's not. Rather, all that's happening is it's the shayateen, the jinn are involved, and they are manifesting something which appears to the onlookers as breaking the laws of cause and effect. But in reality they are not, because all that's happening is something that is in line with Allah's laws of cause and effect. Because whatever a jinn does, there are things that the jinn can do that humans can't do. Right? Now a human can't jump 20 feet in the air. A human can't just float in the air. Right? But a jinn can come and he can make a human float and fly in the air. Now, is this something that is breaking the law, the law of cause and effect and the ways and means? And the answer is no. Because this is something that the jinn, the shayateen are able to do within the scheme of Allah's creation, because Allah has put these laws as it relates to the jinn, not to the men, but to the jinn. So is this really something that's extraordinary? And the answer is no. The answer is no. So these types of things are unlike the miracles which occur at the hands of the prophets and the righteous people. Right? Those, they actually break, they involve the breaking of Allah Azza wa Jalla. He's able to change cause and effect, the ways and means, the asbab. But here, these people are simply acting within the scheme of the asbab, involving the shayateen and using tricks and so on and so forth. Right? So, when it happens at the hand of a sahir, kahin, this is a khariq shaytani. And the reason why this is happening is because this is simply to test the people. And so the Sheikh says that sometimes they might fly in the sky and walk on the water and do certain actions. All of these actions are just from the actions of the devils, the shayateen. So now the question should arise, as the Shaykh indicates here, the question should arise now, well, okay, how do we distinguish between a mu'jiza and a karama and that which occurs from the shayateen? What is the dhabit? What is it that tells us? Is it because, is it the act itself and how amazing it is and how, what's the dhabit? And dhabit that we use is that we look at the deeds of this individual. Right? We look at the deeds of what are his deeds? What are his beliefs? If we see from his beliefs that this person, his aqeedah is sound, his actions are righteous, they are in agreement with Islam, right? This is the criterion. This is the only criterion. This then means that what happened from him upon his hands, this is a karama. This is a karama. This is something that Allah has honored him with. But if we see from his deeds, otherwise, we see from his deeds that, we see that he has all the qualities and the signs and the deeds of a magician, a soothsayer, right? Then we know that this is simply the shayateen who are involved. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He says in the Quran, وَيَوْمُ يَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا يَا مَعْشَرَ الْجِنِّ قَدْ اسْتَكْثَرْتُم مِّنَ الْإِنسِ وَقَالَ أَوْلِيَاؤُهُم مِّنَ الْإِنسِ رَبَّنَا اسْتَمْتَعَ بَعْضُنَا بِبَعْضٍ. Speaking here about how on the Day of Judgment they will all be resurrected, and Allah will, and He will say to the jinn, "O gathering of the jinn, you have basically benefited and increased yourselves in benefit through the ins, through the men." And then the allies from the men will say, "O our Lord, we sought benefit from each other," indicating that the jinn and the men, that amongst them there's a certain interaction by way the jinn gain some benefit and the men gain some benefit. And this they will acknowledge on Yawmul Qiyamah. Surah Al-An'am, Surah 6, verse 128. And so in other words, meaning that the men, the jinn showed some humility and obedience to the men, and the men showed likewise that they got benefit by way of the jinn. The jinn will bring to them what they want. And so Allah Azza wa Jalla, He will say, قَالَ النَّارُ مَثْوَاكُمْ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ حَكِيمٌ عَلِيمٌ وَكَذَلِكَ نُوَلِّي بَعْضَ الظَّالِمِينَ بَعْضَ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. He will say, the fire is your abode, to remain therein forever, except as Allah wills. Indeed, your Lord is wise, all-knowing. First do we turn some of the wrongdoers against others on account of that which they used to earn. So, these khawariq are, this is Surah Al-An'am, the same passage, 129, 128. So all of these are affairs from the shayateen, so that which is the distinguisher between them is al-iman wal-amalu salih. Sound faith and righteous deeds are the criterion, and this is the madhab of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So, now, besides Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, there are two groups who go astray on this topic. There are two groups who go astray on this topic. And so the first of them are the Mu'tazila, and the second of them are the grave worshipping Sufis. The grave worshipping Sufis. And this will continue inshallah ta'ala in the next lesson. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.